Hey, welcome to the Twisted, Bent, Exhausted, and Entrepreneurial Podcast. My name is Jeff Harrison, along with and she's not dancing today. I don't know. Maybe that's a New Year thing. What's the deal here?
I'm typing.
She's talking and typing. We've got a pretty heavy show today, which in a very good way is going to help relieve the burden that sometimes we as entrepreneurs have and business owners. Leslie, I'm excited to talk about today's topic. How about you?
Yeah, me too. I think that there's going to be a lot of listeners who can relate to this. I know I can, so I'm sure others can. You know, this is one of those deals where we try to identify, or I think we will help identify one of the causes of being twisted, bent, and exhausted. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the title of today's show is Strategic Drift and Why Smart Entrepreneurs End Up Busy, Broke, and Brilliantly. And if you'll give me the license to read a story, it kind of sets the tone for today.
Fine.
Okay, here. Okay. So this is about a businessman. It says, Mark didn't start out scattered. He started out sharp. He ran a small professional service business. Let's say like a marketing company, consulting, something knowledge-based. In the early years, the strategy was clean. One core offer, one clear audience, one simple promise. Revenue wasn't explosive, but it was predictable. More importantly, his thinking was calm. Then good things started happening. A client asked if he could also help him with something adjacent. Mark said yes, because he could and because saying yes felt strategic. Another client wanted a significant or a slightly different version of the offer. Mark adjusted. A referral came in from a different industry. He took it. None of these were mistakes. In isolation, each one made sense. In other words, nothing broke. That was the problem. By year 3, the business looked successful from the outside. Revenue was up. The website had more pages. The service list had grown. His calendar was full. But something, I feel like I'm reading like a Christmas story. But something subtle had changed.
Oh, yeah, I got to go sleep.
Yeah, Mark could no longer explain, and this is I think such a significant line.
I agree.
But something subtle had changed. Mark could no longer explain his business in one sentence without adding qualifiers. Yep. Strategy had been replaced. It had been diluted. His weeks were now spent context switching between different types of clients, different expectations, different definitions of done. He wasn't doing bad work, but he was doing fragmented work. Every decision took longer because nothing had a clear default anymore. When someone asked, "Is this a good opportunity?" the honest answer was, "I'm not sure, but it might be." That sentence became the operating system. Mark didn't feel reckless. He felt responsible. He told himself he was being adaptable, diverse, and resilient. But underneath that language is a quieter truth. He was reacting faster than he was deciding. The business didn't collapse. It just slowly became heavier to carry. Gosh, I can relate to that. By the time Mark realized he was exhausted, confused, and all that, the confusion felt structural, like it was just how things are now. Strategy wasn't something he revisited. It was something he assumed he no longer had time for. The drift wasn't caused by ego or laziness or bad judgment. It was caused by success without guardrails.
Yeah.
Boy, does that land for anybody?
It lands for me.
I mean, in this whole thing, there's no villains. Yeah, there's no villains. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say not 100%, but what it reminds me of is how, and I tell this story a lot, is that we allowed our clients to take us in different directions. We set out on our lifestyle management business to do a specific set of tasks. And over the years, and we've been in business 20 years. So over the years, clients would say, "Can you do this? And can you do that? And can you do this?" And I always say, of course, because I believe in selling with an empty bench and then figuring out how to get it done. But the problem with that is that you're right. Your services get so diluted that how do you pitch it? How do you say, I actually lost a client, because he asked me to come and talk to him about one specific service we offered. And instead of sticking with that, I tried to introduce all of our stuff because I knew there was opportunity with him. So that was completely the wrong strategy. He just said, no, I don't want to deal with her. She's not listening to me. This is what I want. She didn't do what I asked. He didn't say that to me, but I'm smart enough to know that's what happened. And so after that, now I am very careful about listening to what they're asking for and only offering other things when they ask for them, at least until I can get a relationship built and prove the quality of the services we offer. So I can totally relate to that about getting the dilution and the inability to articulate properly or stick to the script, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It's hard to stick to the script when you offer so many things. Right.
Yeah. And it reminds me of the day when I said, I think of two different speakers, like professional speakers. Let's think about somebody like Tony Robbins. And you think about somebody that is your pastor at your church. Which one is harder? I think the guy that is your pastor at your church, because every week he has to come up with a new topic. In other words, he's speaking, but he's talking about something different every week. Tony Robbins, if you if I go to Tony Robbins and his 3-day seminar, and I went in like 2012, and then I went back a few years later, it was exactly the same. So what happened is he was a professional because he did the same thing every time. Now, did he inject some new things? Yeah, because he brought different speakers in. But his piece was almost identical. In other words, he was able to say, I did the same thing 1,000 times. Not I did one thing 1,000 times or 1,000 times.
Ways.
Yeah, 1,000 different ways. And sometimes I think that's what we do, don't we?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at, and this is one of the things that kind of blows my mind, is we're trying to create content and become heard in a very crowded marketplace, right? There's a zillion of everything now. I do coaching. There's so many coaches you can't even count. I do, in my other business, I do that. But then, your thought process is, I want to create new and better content to find what sticks, what lands, right? On the other side of that, similar to Tony Robbins, is Miguel Ruiz, whose book, The 4 Agreements, and I try to live my life by that book, right? If you look at his social media, with very few exceptions, it's a variation of the 4 Agreements pitch over and over and over again. It's not new stuff. He has other books, so once in a while he'll intersperse one of his other books, but the 4 Agreements far and away is his number one bestseller. And so nearly every social media post is about that. And you think, well, how many different ways can you pitch a book? But it doesn't matter. He's pitching the same book over and over and over again. Right. Yeah. And so, and when he does cruise seminars and things like that, or destination seminars where you can go somewhere and kind of have a retreat. And what does he talk about? The 4 Agreements every single time. So
but he's an expert at nothing. Right?
Yeah. And I think, God, how simple my life would be if I had one single thing that I did. We just finished making a new product, not a product, but a new service. And I think, God dang, did I just waste all my money to do this? Because, again, I'm going to have to figure out how to promote more than one thing, and it's hard. And along with this is when your ideal market changes. Now, have you found that in your business that the target or ideal client has changed?
I've had that conversation with myself and with you many, many times. And I just keep going back to I keep trying to go back to the line that Jeff Bezos said. When somebody asked him in an interview, he says, tell us what's happening in the next 10 years. He said, I can't predict that. He said, I can't build a business on things I don't know what's going to happen. He said, so I built it on what I already know. And these three things that people want: a good price, they want to be able to return things if they want to, and the shipping is free. That's what I'm building my business on. Well, I asked that question. I said, well, I'm building my business on human behavior that hasn't changed, which means, hey, people, before they make buying decisions, the huge majority of them will do what? They'll do some research. And what do they research? Content. And so that's why I built my business on content. Now, the delivery process, or the generation of that seems to be the moving piece, but I keep trying to come back to, this is what I know. And until I'm proven that human behavior has changed, there's no reason for me to change that. Does that make sense?
Well, it does for your business. In my business, for the lifestyle management service, our initial target market was upper end baby boomers, right? Not the Jeff Bezos or the Bill Gateses of the world, but just below that, people that were in middle management or CEO, CFO level positions in their companies who have since retired. People that wanted to be in middle management and didn't quite get there, but still appreciate the value of time and wanted to have somebody to help them alleviate their time. And now, 20 years later, a lot of them have passed away or aged out. And the wealth of America seems to have migrated to younger professionals, right? Now, on the plus side, that's not a downside, but the additional plus side is that since COVID, our entire society has changed, and people outsource way more than they used to. Nobody mows their lawn, nobody cleans their pool, nobody even washes their car anymore. Half the time, people don't walk their own dog. People are outsourcing more and more of their lives, because even with technology being as advanced as it is, we find ourselves busier than ever. People are always saying, I'm so worried AI is going to replace me, and it will replace some jobs, but it also makes us busier.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So with all this outsourcing, because I'm kind of sensing something, since a little disclosure, I do marketing for Leslie, right. What is the reason everybody outsources? What are they outsourcing for? Because they can financially do it, or is there another underlying reason? To me, that seems like that might be that trigger.
I think it's the need for more hours in the day. I really do. Yeah, freedom. Yeah, that'd be the perfect way to say it. Because
I'm going to write that down, because we haven't discussed it in that way. Go ahead.
Yeah, because what happens is, during COVID, when people, and again, I've been saying this lately too, is that COVID seemed to have drawn a line in the sand for how society operates in the United States. So pre-COVID, people were going into offices. They were trying to get things done at night or on the weekends. People with young children were really overburdened because there wasn't, if you really looked at how many hours a day you got to spend with your kids, it wasn't very many. And so then during COVID, everybody's working from home. A great portion of America was working from home. They got where they didn't want to go out and go shopping. So they were ordering food deliveries. They were ordering product deliveries. Things were being, coming in. For a while, that was a market for us to go shop for people. However, now everybody got onto that. The grocery stores, Uber Eats, DoorDash, all these different systems have popped up where they will deliver I use Costco delivery at least twice a month. I mean, so I don't have to go to Costco. Now, am I able to go to Costco? Of course I am. But my time, I feel, is better spent doing something else, either work related or simple, just downtime.
Yeah.
Right. Or having my weekends free to go do stuff, and give my husband quality time. And I think that's a lot of what America is at. We all work really hard. Most of us work really hard. And you need that time for decompression. And so I think that's why, that's my long way of saying this is why I think people outsource more and more. They're valuing the freedom and the ability to choose how they spend whatever discretionary time they have in a week or a day.
So with that, kind of pulling on that string just a little bit,
Sure.
the idea that, okay, people outsource and use services like you offer, which is whatever you can imagine she can do with her company called Executive Errands. Um, but is there, and it's for freedom, but is there something more than that? Because they can certainly financially do that, especially, in the world we live in right now, technology is allowing the barrier to entry and make billions of dollars. I mean, you say millions, now it's billions is pretty normal. And it's really to people that are very young. I read stories almost every day, Leslie, where people are like 21, 22, and they have a company worth $40 billion. I mean, this is insane. Does it change their demands from you if you were to work with those types of people?
I don't know that it would. I think they'd still be having us do these things, but it's odd because I don't have any clients in that age range yet.
Okay.
But I have a friend who has a friend who's a billionaire, and he's only barely 30. And he does he doesn't drive anywhere, right? He has a driver, his own Uber driver. I'm saying Uber, but it's not Uber. He's got his own personal driver. He has his own jet, so he flies private. He's barely 30. Okay. He rents out whole hotels, takes all his friends' places, that he shares his wealth is what I'm trying to say. He doesn't, I haven't, and he has a beautiful home, but somebody's obviously taking care of it. And that's where we would come in, right? They bought a home, then they would want somebody like us to take care of it for them, especially if they're out world traveling a lot, So there's still a place for us in that market for sure. But I'm not quite sure yet what their priorities are. Again, we come back to experiences, right? All these influencers and all social media, you look at TikTok, you look at Threads, you look at Instagram. I don't follow influencers, but I've seen videos of them, and they're all touting experiences over material things. So to me, the owning of a driver and multiple cars and a private jet and all that is for convenience more than the status of having it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Okay, well, can we shift to just a little bit, staying with this whole idea of strategic drift and why people, entrepreneurs end up busy, broke, and brilliantly misaligned? I want to talk a little bit about the difference between strategy as intention versus strategy as residue. And that's kind of like in the story that I read where Mark, the whole idea of a strategy kind of became this second thought because he got so wrapped up in things. Talk to us about strategy as an intention versus a residue. Like, oh, if I have time, I'll do it.
Well, this one is a bit of a quandary for me. Because when I started Executive Errands, I like I told you, I had specific services I was going to offer. They were not near broad enough. It was very naive when I started this company. Remember, I came out of manufacturing operations and not a service industry. And taking care of homes was, I was on the road all the time. So I needed somebody to take care of mine. So that's why I started this business, because I would have paid for the service. Then, even though the industry didn't exist yet, I would have paid for it. So I could see, the future, what was coming. So strategy as intention to me is, okay, this is what I'm going to provide. This is how I'm going to do it. And sticking with that all of your activities and tasks and actions further those intentions. Now, does that mean you can't be flexible at all? No. I think that you can allow, just like me, I was going to do housekeeping and carpet cleaning and stuff like that. It ended up being, can you take care of the pool? Can you take care of the landscaping? Can you take care, can you do this? Can you do that? Yes. I can. And I figured out how to do it. But again, I was at the very beginning of an industry.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have any clearly defined strategies at that time. Now I help people form their strategies. And I think that how do I say this? You have to have enough. First of all, you need to know where you're going with your business so that you know what your intention is. Am I building something to sell? Am I building a job for myself? What is my goal for helping people? Right. And then build around that. So it doesn't mean that your scope has to be, sorry, I got somebody rang the doorbell. So it isn't that that the scope has to be really narrow in order to have your intention and strategy for that. It just means that you have to look at the whole plan so that you know where you're going with it. Strategy is residue. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but doesn't that mean that you take on things you never intended to do?
Oh, 100%.
Or that don't fit with your business model? And so
Absolutely.
Then you're doing these extra things. Excuse me a second. Hang on. I'm going to mute myself for 1 second. Maybe. Can you mute me? Oh, I can mute me.
So what I'll do is I'll just kind of jump in here for a second.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, as an example for my company, even though we're in a digital marketing and AI area, we still don't, as a rule, hang our shingle out and said we build websites. We don't. You can't go on our website right now and see anywhere where we do anything that pertains to websites. However, I've always said, but if I have a client, and Leslie's one of them, is if they need a website, I can build it for them, but I don't go out actively looking for that business. So that isn't a residue. Now, the challenge is if all of a sudden, you get 80, 90, or 100 clients and they all want a website, guess what? That is strategy as a residue, because now that's something that I would probably say no to, or I would probably open up a new division and say, I just have a website development team. And when it goes to them, that's it. And here's your contact. But the idea of strategy as an intention, like I'm going to do content marketing, or Leslie, especially with her software business, she's going to create a piece of software that does this for the lifestyle or someone who charges by the hour. She's going to create that piece of software and she's going to continue to make it better with every iteration to make their lives and their businesses better. That's her focused intention. But if now people come in and say, well, can you make it do this? Can you make it do this? Can you make it? To me, that's residual. Now, she's done some of that, but with an intention, and to serve those people who say, wow, is like the whole enchilada. I need some chips and salsa. And that just as a couple of pieces with your business, or excuse me, the software will do that. And she's accommodated them. But it didn't mean now that she's out marketing for those people, or she's not. She's still doing it by, I'm going to say, strategically, with intention, running that company. I think I'm going to turn it back over to her. Her executive errands, on the other hand, I think it's easier because we're talking about humans and we're talking about homes and all the things that go with that. It's like, wow, maybe you haven't become as a residue. You just realize there's a lot of stuff that we take for granted that people do that we didn't realize they wanted to help with, but it still is in your lane, isn't it?
Yeah. And sorry about that interruption. I've got a solar problem. So the guys were telling me what it was, not happiness. So yeah, what happened was that when I built Executive Errands, we realized, or I say we, but it's the royal we, it's me, realized right away that the amount of admin required to manage a lifestyle management company is quite extensive, right? You have to keep track of arrivals and departures. You have to keep track of to-do lists. You have to keep track of quoting that you're doing for clients. And so there's a lot of data to manage. And so we immediately designed this software system. It was very basic and rudimentary back in 2007. We launched the first iteration of it. And then over the years, as my company has grown, we've added more and more functionality to it to accommodate more of the manual processes we were doing. We automated everything we could. And we
Can I
also,
jump in for just half a second?
yeah,
When you built that, though, you built it just for your company, right?
that's correct.
And
Yeah.
every time you did something, you were really the guinea pig. You tested it and make sure it was battle tested and it was ready, right?
Right. That's true.
Because I think that's huge. In my eyes, that's huge that it's not some just idea that said, okay, let's throw it out on market. You didn't go to the market for many, many years with that to other people, did you?
No, in fact, I launched it in 2007 and I didn't license the first version out until 2016, I think.
Wow.
So it was almost 10 years. And then I had several licensees and I kept enhancing it and stuff. But what occurred, which is interesting, I think it fits in with this strategy as intention and stuff, is that because we got to be a big company, big financially, not big for people and stuff. We only have 6 people, which is not nothing, but you know what I'm saying? It's a small boutique business, but financially and the amount of data and stuff that we manage got quite large. And so I was trying to market that software like everybody was where I was. And they weren't. And I didn't realize until just last year when I started doing these 5-day challenges under Concierge Business Solutions that the lifestyle management system became mainstream about 10 years ago-ish. 2016, 2018, there's a lot of people that had started their businesses in that, about that time. They could be in business 10 or 12 years and only have 15 or 20 clients, right? And some of them never want to get bigger than that, but they still need a way to manage the data because anything over like 3 clients, you start waking up in the middle of the night saying, did I forget to do this? Did I forget to do that? You know what I mean? So I completely restructured it to accommodate those people so that they could take advantage of the solution without all the bells and whistles that we use every day because we're bigger. That makes sense.
Makes total sense.
So there was an intention, original intention between the software was to survive in my business. Because I am so detail oriented and not wanting and quality driven that I did not want to let anything fall through the cracks. And I remember when I first started doing executive errands, clients would say to me, well, how do I know you're going to be in my home? And so we would actually leave a copy of a paper, a 2-part form. We'd leave one part in their house so they would know that we had been there, which is not efficient and archaic. And in this day and age seems ludicrous, but that's what we used to do. Eventually I automated that form and put it in the database. And now they get an automated notification when we do something and they can actually log in and see it. So you can just see the iteration of technology. I mean, the things we're doing today, I couldn't have dreamed of 20 years ago. The functionality, the capability didn't exist. And as it was, I actually challenged my programmers to do things they had never done. Because in my mind, I could see how it needed to work, but I can't program. So I had to have somebody else do it. So it was really interesting. So that strategy was never originally set out to be for anybody else. It was just for me. But eventually I saw a need in the market and I put it out there, but I put it out there too big. And so then I had to look at that strategy and say, okay, this isn't serving the greatest number of people in the best way possible. So then I had to restructure that. But they're still getting a massive amount of support for right where they are and helps them eliminate multiple fragmented applications.
It's almost, Leslie, it's almost like if you see somebody out in the ocean and they are struggling, that you don't need to show up with a a battleship to get them out of the water, right? They need a life preserver, and you created a life
Exactly.
preserver, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And so they got their balance. Now, do you think over time now, because now they have a system that is, I'm going to say, a mini version of the full product, do you think that will allow them to say, wow, I can now do more because my time is demanded less? And then would they evolve? Have you set up a ladder with your system that they can say, okay, well, now I can add more services or more functionality, so that it's almost
Absolutely.
like, I think of like a child on a bike when they're learning to ride, they have training wheels. And then once they get their balance, they take the training wheels off. Next thing you know, they're in a 10 speed and they're racing around the neighborhood like they were like it's part of them.
Yeah.
Do you see that same thing happening with your customers?
I do. And what's interesting is that the lowest, I'll call it the lowest level piece, just for conversation, is everything I use the first 10 years.
Oh, wow.
All,
Okay.
Plus, it's all of it plus more, because the calendar's in there and profiles are in there. We didn't have that in there at the time. But as
And these
far
were
as
things that you just saw you needed, right? So you just
we
added them.
needed them.
Yeah.
We needed them. I know I've used this statistic before, but when I automated time entry, we cut our entry time by 89%,
That's amazing.
which is a huge number. You
Wow.
know, the amount of labor it took to enter just time, because it was redundant and it was a manual. Even though it was in a database, it was still manual. I automated half of it and saved 89%. So can I automate all of it? No, because you have to have a human element to it. But I have automated as much as humanly possible. And so what's really cool is that for a very nominal amount of money, they can have everything that I built for 10 years and then some, and be able to run their business wonderfully efficiently, which then frees them up to be able to go and market and build their business. Because so many of the lifestyle management companies, even the teeny tiny ones, are bogged down in administrative fees, functions. They're spending 20 to 30, sometimes 40 hours a week just trying to track time and do time cards and bill clients and justify to the client what they've spent. And so this takes all of that away.
And so, in essence, it's almost like the people you're describing are saying, I would like to run a business, but it just means I have to work so much harder. Instead of doing 20 or 30 hours a week, I might be doing 30 to 50 hours a week. And do I really want to do that? Well, your system reduces that or eliminates a tremendous amount of that. And now they can add more customers without that labor.
Right. Do you know what I spend a week managing the company?
Go ahead. Make us all feel bad.
About 4 hours a week, maybe. Okay. Very minimal, because of this software, and then of course policies and procedures and all the other stuff we talk about. But primarily it's having the admin piece automated, and then ensuring that people follow the rules for data entry, because data, garbage in, garbage out, right? So as long as you maintain the integrity of the data, then management becomes super easy. I love this one. How opportunity addiction slowly replaces clarity. This has happened to me so bad. It happens to you too. I'm just going to say we both fall subject to this one.
Well, it's almost like that thing is saying, we think we are the only ones, but it happens to almost all of us. I know somebody who lives just a couple of doors down from you that I know he's experiencing this as well, because opportunities come and you're like, hey, let's do this. And, I've got something on my plate right now that I keep thinking, this could be a whole business on its own. And what I have, I'd have to scrap. And I'm playing with that because I look at it and say, what's the upside of this other business? It could be an industry disrupting process that, because I am small and nimble and I'm not bogged down with regulation and policies and procedures and thousands of people on staff, it could be disruptive. I'm playing with that right now. But it's one of those, like, if you see this picture, there's an idea. Yeah. Oh, it's possible. And yeah, you think of it. I mean, we're dealing with it right now with one of your ideas.
I know. Well, part of the problem for me I think all entrepreneurs suffer with this specific problem. This isn't unique to me or to you. It's that entrepreneurial mindset is that we see opportunities everywhere, right?
Yep.
We see opportunities, and I call them shiny objects. We get really excited because, and I'll give you an extreme example. We went to visit, this is years ago. Dan and I went to visit his brother, and his wife has one of those MLM businesses, the multi-level marketing thing, and it's for freeze-dried foods. Okay. Oh. And they're really high quality and very nice. And the minute I saw them, I went, oh my God, this would be fantastic in California with the earthquakes and preparedness. And my mind started going 1,000 miles an hour going, yeah, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. And I went, oh my God. And I had to go, time out, brain, stop. This is not your market. This is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Whole other thing. Or the time I got this wild hair to go do a container wedding business where you could, for one price, you would get an abbreviated but lovely wedding for the people that can't afford this $40,000 minimum that's out there today, right? If I can give you a lovely wedding, small but lovely, for $5,000 or $6,000 or even $10,000, then why wouldn't you do it? And I made a website and I did all that, and I was deep into it before I realized the wedding market is a completely different networking exercise and completely diluted. This is what we were talking about, dilution and residue. Completely diluted me from what I was doing on Building Executive Errands at the time, because this was 15 years ago. I mean, this was a long time ago. I built the websites, I did all this stuff, and then I realized I couldn't support it. And do you know that even though I took the site down for another 10 years, I got phone calls on it? It would have been phenomenal. It would have been a great market, but still, that's exactly what you're talking about losing clarity and how opportunity addiction, we see that. And now with AI, it's worse. Because AI, once you get using it properly and it starts to guide, it'll say, well, if you say, how do I 10X my business? I've done that. How can I 10X it? And it'll come back with suggestions on how to do that. And one of them I'm following right now. And it's a completely different product that should be its own standalone thing and somebody else should run it. But it's so needed. Right? You know this, right? It is so needed in our industry. If I don't do it, somebody's going to do it. It's not going to be long, because we all know what's happening with AI and the fact that already you can't tell what's real from what's not. So there has to be, there has to be a new way to be able to, a trusted way that you can validate whether or not a company is any good. And I'm doing that right now for the lifestyle management industry.
Because don't you already do that on a executive errands level? Anytime somebody comes into your sphere, because you have that same referral process within executive errands in a way, and you do all the vetting and make sure it works. So again, it takes me back to that, hey, before you ever launched it, you actually have made it bulletproof. You've battle tested it. So it's effective, because this is what it does at the end, right? This just came to me of like, oh, wait a second. This is nothing new. You already do that on a daily basis. Anytime you bring somebody in, right?
I do. I do it with vendors where I personally vet them and go talk to them and make sure that they can put a good face on my business. Because when I send a vendor somewhere, they're representing me. Mm-hmm. And so therefore they need to not smoke on site, not leave trash, smell decent. It's a tricky with plumbers, but we've had success. And so, you've got to, so vendors are all personally vetted, and then clients too, whether they realize it or not, are going through a vetting process, because I've been doing this long enough to know who's going to be a pain and who isn't. Yeah. So, and I have to, one of the things that I personally have to learn, and I think all small business owners out there need to consider, is whether or not to trust your intuition. I counsel a lot of small business owners on that because they'll call me up and they'll say, this is what this client is trying to do to me, or they're talking like this now before I've even taken them onboarded them. So what do you think? And I'm like, run away as fast as you can.
Yep.
Because I had a client who had their potential client was wanting them to change in fact, I've had a couple with this one who wanted them to change their contract to satisfy their requirements. And you can't do that.
No.
Again,
That's going to change your business.
Yeah. Why would you change your business for somebody? Then that's not your ideal client, right?
Yeah.
So
they would have to pay me a tremendous amount of money for me now to say, I'm going to change my whole way of doing things just for you, because now I'm opening up a new business and you have to make sure to be able to support that.
I made that mistake. We all do it. These things, the things we're talking about today, I could give you horror stories for every single one of them. I had a lady call me up, even on my software. She wanted to open elderly caregiving home, where people come and live in her home and she takes care of them. And she needed a software to manage that. And she wanted me to modify my software to do it. And I instantly, here we go again with opportunity, right? I instantly could see how we could do it. And so I invested the time. She made a commitment to buy it, but she didn't pay me as we went along. I invested $3,000 or $4,000 in getting the initial proof of concept done. And when it got done, she decided that she wanted to do something else and never paid for it. Oh my God. I will never do that again.
Yeah. Lesson learned.
Yeah.
That was probably, it sounds like expensive. It's probably a very cheap lesson in the reality of things, right?
Yeah. But this goes back to opportunity fatigue. I mean, or whatever we said about opportunity versus intention. We see opportunities everywhere. And we, small business owners, are the best at developing, cultivating, and launching new opportunities because we can see the future in that way. We can see how it fits in the marketplace. When I say see, I mean visualize how it works in the marketplace, how we can do better. And I mean, you do it all the time. Look at your content creator. That thing is amazing, just the way it is, but you want to make it better and better and better. And I get that. And the stuff you're trying to do to it is awesome. Awesome. But now it changes who the ideal client is, in my opinion. Which is something
it doesn't have to, but it
doesn't have to, but it could.
Yeah, it could bring in a whole different type of client.
Yeah. And that's something that we'll talk about when he gets it done. But to me, it's a phenomenal product, which you've created just the way it is. And so, Thank you. I've been hounding you for a couple of years. It's like, get it out there in the market, get it out there. And he's like, a little bit more tweaking.
Well, it's like your software. You used it a long time before you actually shared with anybody. For me, I just kept building it to help me as my company serve my clients better. And now that I see that it's working the way, it's like saying, hey, it's not like the clock on the picture here. It's not right twice a day because it's broken, right?
Right.
It runs properly. And that took some doing, right?
Yeah. Right.
So,
well, and you're all about the automation, which I try to do too. And so, you're trying to automate even tighter than it was, which is incredible.
And use smarter tools. Like you said, that when you started your software, the things that you're doing now didn't even exist then.
No, they didn't. But I listened to my clients. And so, I let them take me in directions. And with those directions were all still within the umbrella of lifestyle management. I didn't go outside that umbrella, right? All those directions made other data management necessary. So I've always told my employees, we're really a data management company because the amount of data that is created in trying to manage somebody's home and their lifestyle and taking care of them is, you just can't even believe how much data there is. So, and what's funny is, one might say, well, why did you also create Concierge Business Solutions? Right? Because you already had a good business and you want to stay in your lane and do this. Yes. But Concierge Business Solutions brings me full circle to my consulting days in aerospace, where I was helping people pick the best software. Now it's mine, right? Doing business process engineering to help them improve their businesses. You know, it was born out of starting to license the software. Then it became, well, I can do all these things for people and help them. And so they both have a place and they both fit together, but they are two completely different deals. And this one here about revenue streams, I'd be anxious to hear your thought on this. What is your thought behind this one?
Well, I'll tie into this why adding revenue streams often reduces profit. And I think when you're by yourself, let's say you're a solo entrepreneur or you're the CEO of your company and you're making all the decisions, you only have so many hours in the day. So you have to take your eye off your primary business to start this other stream of income. When this happens, how do you typically fund that? With the current profits from your business to build that new revenue stream, which means your overall profits go down because you've reinvested in things that don't exist yet and they're not proven out. You know that.
Right.
And, you know, we've had that conversation. The next thing is your energy level. Now you're running two different businesses with the same 24 hours with the same person. So now you have to be on point all day long, all night long, not on one business, but two businesses. And sometimes, in many cases, it's, as you said, it's like, let's go back to the wedding in a box or wedding in a container. That's a totally different business. So you have to be thinking now way outside of what you're comfortable with. It's not just like, hey, I build widgets and I deliver to these people. I build widgets and I deliver to these people. It's no brainer, right?
Right.
And then of course, I think the leverage piece is when you say, I was leveraging my knowledge and my business and my expertise with the business I have. Now I'm going into a total, nobody knows me. I have no credibility. I don't have any authority. And so I think that's what adding streams or additional revenue streams often reduce those three key elements of your business.
So you're thinking of them as new products or services outside the realm of what you're already doing. Is that how you're framing this?
It could be as an example. Let's say, for instance, I mentioned why you are taking care of the solar issue is one of the things that I said I don't hang a shingle out for is creating websites. And the reason for that is because it can be very time and labor extensive. And it can also be one of those things where based on who you're dealing with, we always call them the fonts and spacing people because they can never make a decision, right? And sometimes you're going, this is a 2-week job and I've been with it for 3 months. Well, now if you spread those hours out, you're not making any money doing that. I don't want to get into that situation. Even though it's still in my realm, in my place, it's not my primary business. So that's what I'm talking about mainly.
I can tell you how to avoid that, but okay. So as somebody who would never do that.
Well, I don't do that anymore because when I realized how quickly that happened, I said, listen, I need this much upfront payment. And before we even start working on it, I need all the content. And if you don't have it between this and this, then you'll lose your deposit. And once we get all of it, we typically can build a website within 2 weeks or less.
Yeah, it's also limiting the number of revisions is another tactic for that. But I was thinking
that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I don't want to throw any spears, but you're a person, as an example, if I said 3 revisions, how much do I charge for each revision? You would be so upset at me.
But on the plus side, I did give you everything at one time.
But then you revised it and revised it again.
I know.
I guess that's 3 revisions. Sorry.
That's 3 revisions. I'm waiting for the final product. But anyway.
So that's my take.
When you said adding revenue streams, I was thinking like trying to maximize the revenue stream within the context of your business is, itself. Like I have multiple revenue streams for Executive Errands and I have multiple revenue streams for Concierge Business Solutions, but they're all under the umbrella of those 2 companies. They are not new things out, like it's not the frozen food or the freeze dried food opportunity. That's how I was thinking of it. But you're thinking about as the frozen or the freeze dried food opportunity outside the umbrella.
Well, not example. The one I said was the websites. That's really under the umbrella of a marketing company and a digital marketing company, right? But it takes different employees. It takes like graphic artists and website developers and SEO and it takes a different group of people than it does to create content, like
right.
Blog posts, videos, things like that. So even though it's under the umbrella, it reduces my profit, energy, and leverage because I've got to recreate that in that. Another one would be creating automation workflows. Hey, we're really good at creating automation workflows and using AI in that. I don't hang a shingle out now to do that. I take that back. I do have that on my website because I thought that was a good direction to go. I think I went out a little early.
Yeah,
right. It's like I had the pet rock before anybody thought it was a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
AI is and we should do a whole discussion about how AI, the kind of tool it is, because people so many times think that they're going to open up AI and it's going to do all this stuff for them, and it doesn't. And so then they think that it's just a piece of crap, and that's not true. It's how you use it and how you teach it and how there's all these kinds of things that go with AI that, and we've talked about it quite a bit on this podcast, but I think it would serve our viewers well to talk about the misconceptions of AI. Maybe that'd be a good topic for one of these podcasts. Write that down.
I'll write it down.
Write that down. What's the hidden tax of keeping your options open? I need to know if I'm guilty of this or not. Exhaustion, frustration.
It's always being pulled into the past.
Oh, I know.
Right? You're trying to push your business forward. Let's use an example. Let's say you're saying, okay, well, I just want to add more absentee homeowners. Oh, wait a second, but I'm also doing this referral program. Okay, so I'm back on this. Oh, wait a second, I want to do this affiliate program. Okay, now I get back on. Oh, I'm being pulled back here. So I think it's that old, how many steps forward, how many steps backward kind of thing. Yeah. And that's keeping you pulled back. And as it says, the hidden tax of that, the tax meaning the tax on you personally.
Yeah. I also see, like, I've got licensees and coaching clients that are trying to, how am I trying to say this? They're trying to leverage a specific service in an industry that has changed. For example, Airbnb is now trying to offer on-the-ground services in all these different markets they service, and they're taking on vendors that I don't know how much vetting they're doing, but even if they have insurance, doesn't mean that they're good, right? And so people, clients, like I have a lady that does a lot of event planning, and she does catering and she's private chef. Excuse me. And if Airbnb is offering a private chef in that location available for that home, the homeowner or the guest doesn't necessarily want that person because they don't know who that is. They want somebody who's local, who comes with the house, who is a known commodity, who has a reputation that other guests have written about. So I don't know how successful Airbnb is going to be about it, but the point of bringing this up is that if her services are going to change, she has to consider what Airbnb is doing.
Yeah.
So that she can either compete or change her own model. So while keeping your options open, in our contacts, where I try to do, for me personally, where I try to take on too many opportunities, and that is very taxing on my life. In her case, she needs to be watching for options because of and we should all do that for our services. So, if we got somebody listening to us and they say, oh, this ideal client, somebody else has launched something and now it's diluting my ability to bring in clients, then either you need to adopt what they're doing or change something about your service so that it gets picked over somebody else's.
Yeah, we talked about in the past, it's called moding, and it's making what you do so different that people really can't compare you to it,
Right.
And I don't know why it just got blurry.
I know. I noticed that too. I was going to say.
I think let me just see if that's interesting. All of a sudden looked up, I'm like, are my glasses dirty? No, I think it's just I'm blurry.
Or you have a brain tumor.
Oh God, thanks. I appreciate that. Let me just go to my autofocus and see what's going on here.
There you go. Okay. I can tell you guys that this is live. I mean, it was live when we do it. So doorbells and dogs barking is just part of the interruptions that go. If we had a studio, it'd be different, right? But we're both working out of.
Quite honestly, it'd probably make it more difficult to get together to do that, because then we'd have to leave and go somewhere.
Right. This is better.
Do this. So,
how many episodes are we up to? Sorry, before you go on.
Well, this is episode 2 of season 2. So that means we have, I think 50 episodes.
It's so exciting.
Yeah, pretty cool. I want to kind of bring this all together.
Okay.
Kind of a little test, and I call it a simple litmus test.
No,
on
not
whatever
this
you're
one.
doing. Yeah. Does this decision make the next 90 days simpler or more complex? And this is one of those, I think, Leslie, this is one of those gut checks where you have to really, really be honest with yourself. I recommend, unless you've properly prompted it, do not put this into ChatGPT, because inherently the way it's designed is to support you in a positive, supportive manner and to find that answer. Unless I call it making a sparring partner out of it. In other words, it's designed to, yes, support you, but to look for the flaws in the flies in the ointment and make sure it points it out to you. So if you do this, it used to be it's still called the Ben Franklin. If I do it, what are the pros? If I do it, what are the cons? And if one outweighs the other, that's the decision. Go with it in the next 90 days. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I agree 100%. I personally am a high output person. I can accomplish a lot in a very short amount of time. And I'm also a workaholic. So those two go together really, really well, or really, really badly, depending on your perspective.
Like chips and hot sauce.
I know. I mean, I can come up with, I put probably 80 hours into this other thing, and I used AI to help me do it, so it could have been way worse. And again, it might be too early for it, but somebody's going to do it one way or the other. So I agree. If you're looking at an opportunity and it's going to take a lot of work to make it happen, then maybe you need to rethink that. And that doesn't mean it's the wrong thing to do. It's just you need to go into it with an awareness of what the cost is going to be. And I don't mean dollars and cents. I mean emotional, on your business, in your personal relationships. How much time is it going to, how twisted up are you going to get? We're twisted, bent, and exhausted as it is. That's our podcast. Before you add something new, or before you decide to do something different, you need to really think about the impact on your life. And I say that to all of my coaching clients and all of my licensees, because you can get really wrapped up in your shorts really easily. And and like I said, we're all opportunity people. We see that opportunity. We can visualize how it could work and why it should work. And we're really good at justifying why we need to do it.
Yeah, and not afraid to take a risk.
That's right. I'll walk off a cliff anywhere for business. If it's personal, not so much. But if it's business, I'll walk off any cliff. And if it's wrong, I go, okay, what did I learn from this? And how do I do it differently? I'm okay with that. It doesn't affect me one way or the other. I don't even care when people say no to me, because then it just helps me figure out how to do it better, you know? So this is a really important, it's not a simple litmus test. I think it's a genuinely valid litmus test.
Yeah.
And it's something you have to be honest with yourself about.
Would you also, if you have someone who is a coach, would you use something like this in a conversation, say a coaching session? Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Help me understand. Hey, will this make my life simpler or more complex? So that you have someone outside the ring while you're boxing inside the ring can see things that you can't.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we all small business owners need a coach. Doesn't have to be me, should be me, but it doesn't have to be me. I coach you, right? And you help me all the time. We brainstorm really well together. It's one of the reasons we're doing this podcast, because we've been friends forever, and our businesses are different, but we're still both entrepreneurs, and we both are opportunity idealists. So I was going to say realists, but really what we do with opportunity is really more idealistic.
Yeah.
So you need a coach. You need somebody to bounce things off of, because they can't have any skin in the game, right? You know, as a matter of fact, when we do coaching sessions, I change my whole hat and attitude and everything else. I'm not a good coddler coach. So I'm like very cut and dried, and this is how it is, and this is how it looks. Because that's what people need. They don't need a sycophant saying, yeah, that's good. Oh, just like ChatGPT is kind of a yes man. It will say yes to everything. So you have to filter that stuff out, and you need a human being who can get to know you, your business, what your strengths are, where you have weaknesses, so that we can leverage those strengths and minimize those weaknesses, and point out, you know, hey, you can do this for sure, but is it the right move? And here's why, you know, forest and the trees.
And it doesn't even mean that, hey, if your life is more complex for 90 days, but you say after 90 days, this is the change and it's worth it. That's okay too. But the big thing is just take a moment. Just take a moment and do this exercise, and then start weighing, is it worth it or not? You know, like let's use your wedding in a container idea. It's a great idea, and there's a market for it.
Right.
In 90 days, is your life going to change dramatically in a very positive those 90 days, and you're okay? And then you can kind of go back to normal. If the answer is yes, okay. If the answer is no, it's like, no, I'm gonna have to go to wedding events, and I'm gonna have to go to, you know,
expos.
That's right. No,
network.
It'll never change. Yeah. So you say, okay,
market.
All of a sudden it's like, what was I thinking? You know,
well, I really wanted to do it. You know, I really did want to do it. And that was before gay marriage was approved. And I could see that was going to happen. So I had one that was for straight couples and one that was for gay couples with similar but different names, ready on the cusp for when that got approved, because I knew it was going to happen. And so, you know, and it could have been huge. It would still be huge today. It just isn't something that I want to take on, because I'm focused on executive errands and concierge business solutions. Those are my life, and I love them both. And one gives me more joy than the other ones, depending on the day, actually.
Well, let's wrap up today. And before we go, let's talk about your coaching, the 5-day Freedom Challenge. That tell us a little bit about that and how people get involved. The link is on the screen.
Yeah, it's a free one-on-one coaching session for 5 days, about an hour per day. Although, to be honest with you, I tend to go over. I have a very hard time sticking to just 1 hour. We go a little bit over every time. I have a new one starting next week, so I'm excited about that. And this is an opportunity for an outside person to take a hard look at your business and help you identify the opportunities that fit for your business. Just like we've been talking about today, there's so many opportunities, but you need to prioritize and pick the things that fit with your goals for your business. And sometimes that is automation, and sometimes that is somebody to hold you accountable, so additional coaching. Sometimes that is a new financial operating system. Quite often it's hiring help. So it really just depends on the business and the person and where they're at in their business. That's why it's so personal. That's why it's a one-on-one and not a group. I don't want to give generic responses because everybody's business is different. Businesses run one specific way. There is a way to run a business. However, depending on where you are, what your products or services are, your geographic location, what tools that you use, there's so many factors that create a variety and need to be evaluated before you get before you can move forward. Generally, there's always a bottleneck when people come to see me. It's like I had one lady who came just because it was free and she wanted to see what I would say. And she was so impressed that she signed up for software right away. So there's not an objective for you have to buy something in it. It's free. But if we have a tool that can help you and it fits with your budget and what your goals are, then by all means, we're happy to share,
So just sign up for that. Again, the URL is on the screen. And with that, I'm going to say, Leslie, this has been a great conversation. The whole topic was strategic drift, why smart entrepreneurs end up busy, broke, and brilliantly misaligned. And I hope we've pointed out some things and given you some ideas today that can say, hey, I don't have to be twisted, bent, and exhausted as an entrepreneur. So, Leslie, with that, I'm gonna say have a great week and thanks for joining us. Please do us one favor. If you just do us one favor, give us a 5-star review if you liked it and share it with one person you know. I'm not asking you to share it with all your friends. Share it with one person you know that you feel like, hey, this episode could be good for you. Like I said, this is season 2, episode 2. So we have about 50 episodes in the can. A lot of good information in there. So thank you for joining us today, Leslie.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.